All right, guys, welcome. We are live, and it is Justice Watch Live, episode 7. And tonight we've got a lot to talk about. There is so much going on out here right now in the world of justice across the country that, we have a boatload of things to cover. So we're going to jump in. We're going to cover two primary stories right now. One is Daniel Howard's trial and the allegations that he was attempting to flee the country on his way to the airport. So we're going to look into that. We're going to check out some news articles. We're going to check out the coverage from Core TV, check out the coverage from Law and Crime. The second thing we're going to check out is the Ohio mom, horrifying case, but the Ohio mother out there who was sentenced for leaving her 16-month-old child alone in her home while she went on a 10-day vacation to Puerto Rico. She pled guilty, is throwing herself at the mercy of the court. She faces life with no parole. She took a plea bargain. They dropped a couple of charges, but still she's facing life with no parole. So we're going to look at that. We're going to go through the sentencing hearing there, look at some background articles and stuff on that. And then, of course, we'll talk about things as well that you guys want to talk about, because remember, this is interactive. How you doing, Ian? Nice to see you. I do actually. It's actually allergy season. So I think I've got my allergies flaring up right now. It's that time of year I go out and I think I've got a little touch of the cold as well. So I apologize if it's coming through when I'm speaking. But yes, so we've got plenty, like I said, plenty to talk about tonight. Of course, I also had my father's funeral on Saturday. Very nice turnout, huge turnout from the community. I spoke at it. My son spoke. We had it was a great way to honor him and lay him to rest. We had books with all his cases and everything. Lawyers from all throughout the community and tri-state area came out, shared stories. They came up and spoke. It was really fantastic. It would have been something nice. I really wish I would have captured. I didn't capture it on film, but it's one of those things. He's sitting right above me because he was cremated, so he's with us tonight. I've got him sitting right up here in my studio, right up above, watching over everything. We're going to be eventually distributing his ashes at some point, but for now, he'll be sitting here with me, watching with us as we watch cases, watch justice. So, Dad, this show is for you tonight. But anyways, wanted to update you guys on that. Also, we're playing catch up. We've gotten through 3 days. We're watching it at ultra fast speed. So I apologize for anybody that doesn't like that. But we're watching the Daniel Howard case right now. There's really nothing else cooking. I wasn't going to get into that case because we were 10 days behind, and it's closing arguments happened tonight. I thought we had a few more days left, but looks like it goes to the jury tomorrow. 3 days in. What do I feel about it? I think it's a strong case that this guy. I understand why he might have been fleeing the country, and that's what we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So this is kind of the segue into that. But so far, there's some disturbing evidence. It appears it was not a good relationship between he and his wife. It appears there was abuse. It appears he's strangling her days before. She's admitting to an adulterous affair. Apparently, she had an adulterous affair years before. She's having another adulterous affair. This time she's ending the relationship. This time she wants to take half of the $2 million estate that they have. And we're to believe then that even though she's bought a house, she's got plans to shack up with her boyfriend, and boom, she shoots herself and decides to commit suicide. Well, can't say that on YouTube. Unalive herself. Actually, you know what, Ian? I don't believe he was, actually. So let's jump into the first thing we're going to do. We're taking a look at the article that Law and Crime put out. So let's go to the document review room here. Give me a moment. All right, I'm back. Now let's share our screen here and get this first document up so we can review it. I think this will give us a little bit of context here on what was going on. So let's turn our computer on. All right, here we are. So says former state trooper currently on trial for unaliving back in court after arrest at the airport. So following his arrest at Spokane, Washington International Airport on Friday, the former Idaho trooper on trial for unaliving his wife was back in court Monday morning. Let's see here. Testimony in the murder trial of Daniel Howard wrapped up for the week Thursday afternoon in Kootenai County, Idaho. Then on Friday evening, cops arrested Howard at the Spokane International Airport, which is just on the other side of the Washington border with Idaho. As part of his bond, he was prohibited from being within 2 miles of an airport. But Howard's defense attorney said his client was not attempting to flee, but was following someone who was returning a rental car at the airport. There were no bags in the car. He had no tickets. He was not even in the airport itself, Johnson said. He was in the rental car parking lot. Johnson asked that the jury be polled on whether they heard about the arrest because of the extensive local media coverage, but the judge denied the request, saying he'd already instructed them not to watch or read anything about the trial. Howard was out on bond as he stood trial for the February 2nd, 2021 death of his wife, Kendi Howard. The disgraced cop allegedly killed his wife and left her body in a bathtub in an attempt to make it look like an unalive. Testimony has been going on for the last 2 weeks, and the trial is expected to wrap up this week. So there we kind of have some answers here. It appears he was not fleeing. It appears we're going to listen to some coverage here that Law and Crime did here. So let's also briefly switch gears again. Give me a moment. And let's find that video here. Here we go. Is this the video? Nope, that's not the video. Here we go. All right, so let's share our screen with that video here and full screen. And we'll turn the TV on. All right, so let's take a look here, guys. We're going to watch this video and hear what they have to say. But it appears he was not. But let's listen to the experts here. Hear what Law and Crime's take is on this situation. He is no longer out on bond, Ian.
We're in Idaho.
They revoked it.
Daniel Howard,
he was out on bond,
for
but not.
Murder and felony
he's in
domestic
jail
battery
tonight.
Charges in the alleged murder of his wife, Kendi Howard. Kendi died back in 2021 due to a gunshot wound to her head. Initially, the defendant told police that Kendi died by suicide due to their divorce. However, an investigation into the case led authorities to believe that was not the case. In the latest development, Howard was arrested Friday night at Spokane International Airport while on property bond. His bond agreements included an 11 p.m. curfew, as well as not being within 2 miles of an airport. On Monday afternoon, the judge addressed this issue when court began. Let's see how that occurred.
And I apologize, the acoustics in that courtroom is very low.
Counsel from Chambers, a number of issues. Mr. Johnson, you did want to make the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a defense request to poll the jury after the 3-day weekend. Obviously, the media has covered extensively this alleged flight of Mr. Howard, who was following an individual who was there at the time of the arrest, returning a rental car. He was allowed to go to Spokane. He was He's not allowed to go within 2 miles of the airport. He had no bags in the car. He had his ankle monitor on. He had no tickets. He was not even in the airport itself. He was at the rental car exchange. Because of the media coverage and because of the assumption that it was flight, and because of the excessive amount of coverage, particularly locally here, the defense is concerned that it could change the jury's view on the case. We will instruct not to. So this is the defense request to pull the jury.
And Ian, he was arrested on Friday night.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't think the jury should be polled, at least not yet. As the court knows, at least once a day, commonly more than once a day, that the court admonishes and directs the jury not to begin deliberations, not to discuss the case, and to basically not follow or seek information from the news or media outlets. And there, up until this point, including up until now, that there's been no proof or indication or any reason for anybody to suspect that the jury has disregarded the court's orders. I think the court should be trusting of its orders. We live in a small world. The internet, social media, we're all connected. And there's been nothing from this jury to give anybody here any reason to suspect that they can't be fair and unbiased, even if they had seen something in the news. And so I don't see a reason to break from what's been the normal flow.
Yeah, Ian, this was during trial. This was Thursday. They had a 3-day weekend, and Friday night he decided to help a friend return a rental car, even though his bond said he couldn't be within 2 miles of an airport, and he ends up getting arrested, having his bond revoked during trial. Part of why I decided to go ahead and cover the case.
Before the start of the weekend, to avoid news coverage, to not view any news coverage. And I trust that my instructions and orders to the jury are being followed. I believe just from my experience over the last couple of weeks, I think nearly every day there has been a news story or coverage of this case online, newspapers, YouTube, on TV. So coverage, news media coverage has been extensive, which is why I advise this jury to avoid any news sources. And I trust that following the court's instructions, this jury is a particularly attentive and conscientious jury. It was, I believe, the first day of trial or the second day of trial that we lost a juror, excluded a juror after having had some contact with one of the attorneys. And I think that impressed upon this jury the significance of following the court's rules. In fact, on a couple minor occasions, witnesses have heard. Once when a juror had some recognition of a witness, another when a juror had some business affiliation with a company that was referenced, brought that to bailiff's attention to address those issues with the jury. There was no concern. There was no inappropriate connection. But even in these minute, unrelated areas, the jurors brought it to the bailiff's attention.
It's similar. I know what case you're talking about, Ian, but I think this one is a little different. But one of the key issues in this case is the coroner originally listed the cause of death as undetermined. So that was a key point the defense was arguing today in their closing arguments.
Any references to him or any comments about anything, and I don't see a need to now hold the jury because there was coverage this weekend. again, there's been coverage last weekend as well of this trial. There's been extensive coverage of the trial, and I am confident that the jury has followed the court's instructions and is fulfilling their duties as they ought. So I'm not going to go into old things. But we did want to make a record. So Mr. Johnson, the record has been made and preserved. So thank you. Anything else before we bring in the jury?
All right, the judge decided there he is not going to poll that jury. And we still have with us, obviously, attorney Paul Townsend and trial attorney and federal litigator Robin Nunn. And I'm going to start with you, Paul. The judge said that he thinks the jury has been listening to his instructions, that the jury hasn't been listening to the media, that they should not be polled about whether or not they heard this information from the media, information being that the defendant was caught and apprehended at the airport. My question to you is that going to get into the trial evidentially? Is the prosecution going to be able to say at all that this was sort of the, he's admitting that he's guilty. He's trying to run away.
And the answer to that is no. It is not allowed into the trial.
That sometimes the actions of a defendant, it does get into court subsequent to the crime. They're trying to get away. Do you think that the prosecution will be able to get this admitted in front of that jury? They didn't listen, hopefully, to the media, but maybe that can get into the trial. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's possible, because that's the key phrase you mentioned, consciousness of guilt. If the prosecution can convince the judge that this
the issue is they had no time to investigate it, and they had no. It was pretty clear that
it becomes potentially
that he wasn't fleeing. There wasn't a plane ticket. There wasn't suitcases. He had a person there saying what it was, but they just went ahead and violated his bond because he was within 2 miles of an airport.
It goes to the defendant's mental state. It shows that he has a guilty mind based on what he did. Then it's very possible the prosecutor will be allowed to bring it in. This is the type of thing, this is the type of scenario that I would expect before the prosecution can just start putting witnesses on. There'd have to be some kind of hearing where this whole factual circumstance is fully explored by the judge and a determination by him about whether or not this is actually consciousness of guilt.
I believe it was like 500,000, and he had to put property up.
Rental car return story, which, if accepted, would show that this was not consciousness of guilt. So I think the judge would have to really explore this, make a determination as to whether or not it would come in that vein. But certainly, it's not something that I think you could just start putting witnesses on and bringing out testimony about.
Exactly, Paul. You mentioned exactly what I wanted to ask Robin. We heard the defense attorney talking about, look, he was returning a rental car. Yes, he's not supposed to be within a certain mileage of the airport, but he was wearing his monitor. There were no bags in the case. It does seem to me that the judge will have to ultimately determine whether or not this evidence gets into the trial itself. What are the chances that it will, in your opinion, based on a little bit of argument that we heard there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the basis that the defense counsel gave is plausible. We've all taken out rental cars and we've all had to return them to the airport. Sometimes that's the closest location. So the information that was provided makes sense in theory. Whether it actually is true and will win the day is time will tell. But I do think that the judge is going to have to take a look at this explanation and see if it has, appropriate grounds to be accepted, and they can move on from this and it not have any influence on this trial. If it isn't accepted, I think it could be very damning for the defense here. He is out, he on his own recognizance, and if he is indeed trying to flee.
Well, and that's actually a bit untrue. He's not out on his own recognizance. He was out on a property bond. Now let's check out Court TV's coverage here, because Court TV also covered this morning. So we'll get their perspective on what they think of this.
Good morning to you, Julie.
Give me a moment. We'll get this thing pulled up. Let's turn our TV back on. And here is some Court TV coverage. All right, here we go.
Such a major development here. Dan Howard, the ex-Idaho State police officer accused of murdering his wife, He's behind bars this morning. He was arrested
Yeah, I saw
late
this
Friday
morning
night at
and
the
I thought,
Spokane,
wow, this is
Washington
crazy.
International Airport. He had been out on bond, and as conditions of his bond, he was not allowed to be within 2 miles of the Spokane airport. Additionally, he was reportedly required to wear an ankle monitor. Now, it really is unclear as to why he was at the airport, but we can obviously guess. Airport police
this
did
is
take him into
clearly
custody just after
before it
10:30
began.
p.m. Friday night. They booked him into the Spokane County Jail. He was then extradited to Kootenai County in Idaho and booked into that jail, where his trial is expected to resume this morning. But obviously, as you just said, Julie, we've been covering this trial here at Court TV. It began just about 2 weeks ago. He's facing first-degree murder and felony domestic battery charges. Prosecutors say that he killed his wife, Kendi Howard, in February of 2021 by asphyxiation, and then placed her in the bathtub and shot her to make it look like a suicide. Prosecutors say that Howard killed his wife to avoid splitting an estimated $2 million in combined assets amid an impending divorce. Now, he was arrested on the murder charge in April of 2023. He had been out of police custody since December of 2023. He was out on a property bond, but now he's back behind bars after being arrested at the airport. And of course, Julie will be following this story and bring you all the latest developments.
All right. All right. So, what can we conclude? I think at this point, from the news reports, I think we can conclude he wasn't fleeing. So, Piers, he made a bad judgment call that he thought, I guess, that people would be more forgiving, or the bond, whoever was overseeing his bond might be more forgiving. He maybe thought he was going to get a slap on the wrist or a violation, but they went ahead and picked him up, tried to make it look like he was fleeing. They didn't get it into trial, because the trial ended up wrapping up today. They had closing arguments already. Tomorrow the jury will get charged or basically have the jury instructions read to them, and then they will begin deliberations tomorrow morning. It'll be around probably 10, 11 o'clock, because there's a little bit of a time difference. So I think it's 8 a.m. Idaho time, 10 o'clock my time. But point is, it's unfortunate for him because he's having to had to spend the weekend in jail, possibly. If he gets convicted, he just wasted the last few days that he would have been free at home behind bars. And that will be a tough pill to swallow when you think that he would have had the potential opportunity to be out right now. Getting a few more nights sleep in his own bed, that would have been nice, I'm sure, for him. But anyways, I guess bad judgment call there for Mr. Howard. Now, moving on to the main feature of the day, and this is a truly disturbing case for the individual involved in this case. Her name is Crystal Candelario. All right. So, setting the scene here, I'm going to warn you, this one's a tough one to hear. This one is very tough. So, first, let's go back to our document review center. We're going to review some documents, and then we're going to get in and watch the sentencing hearing that happened today. But I want to give some background on this thing. Just absolutely heartbreaking. But let's check it out. All right, so here we are, guys. So we are looking at this was an article that came out right after this happened, right after she was arrested. So this will kind of introduce you to the case, a little background of the case, because there was no trial. So we got to kind of do some background of our own here. And it's in Ohio, mother faces charges in connection with the death of her 16-month-old daughter, who died after she was allegedly left home alone for 10 days while the mom went on vacation, authorities said. Crystal Candelario, 31, of Cleveland, was arrested on June 18th and charged with unaliving, online court records state. On June 16th, Candelario found her daughter, Jalen, unresponsive at their home on West 97th Street, Cleveland police said in an affidavit. She allegedly told investigators she had left the 16-month-old at home all alone and unattended while she traveled to Michigan and Puerto Rico, the affidavit states. When she returned, she allegedly found her daughter to be extremely dehydrated, according to the affidavit. Authorities alleged that Jalen's playpen was filled with soiled blankets and a bottom liner saturated with urine and feces, according to the affidavit. Emergency responders pronounced the girl dead at the scene and said that no signs of trauma was observed, according to a press release from the Cleveland Police Department. An investigation by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office revealed that the child had been left alone and unattended for approximately 10 days and had subsequently died, the press release alleges. Following the news of the death, neighbors who spoke with WKYC said they had previously taken care of the girl and wished Candelario had asked them to watch her instead of allegedly leaving her home alone. Jalen really didn't deserve what happened to her. She was amazing and really adorable, and I miss her a lot, a 13-year-old neighbor told the outlet. According to WEWS TV, Candelario had worked at Citizens Academy, Glenville, an elementary school in Cleveland, since November 2022. In light of her arrest, the school released a statement to the outlet announcing that Candelario had been terminated from her position as a building substitute. Candelario is being held in the Cuyahoga jail on a $1 million bond, online court records show. It wasn't immediately clear if Candelario had entered a plea or retained an attorney to comment on her behalf. Whew. So, like I mentioned, very tough facts in this case. Very disturbing facts in this case. So let's take a look at this little clip from YouTube here.
She was always happy, always playing and smiling and laughing.
Pictures and happy memories. That's all neighbors have of 16-month-old Jailene Calendario.
I absolutely loved her. She was like a little sister to me.
Sulem and her mom Iris didn't want to show their faces. They said the first time they met Jailene was last August. They were supposed to watch her only a few days, but they said her mom didn't return for a month and a half.
I was the one calling her, look, I need milk, I need money. I don't have no money to buy milk for you, baby. What am I supposed to do?
Fast forward to this month, and Cristel Calendario is charged with her daughter Jailene's murder. Court documents show the 31-year-old admitted to leaving her baby home alone June 8th while she went on vacation to Puerto Rico and Detroit. When Calendario returned home 8 days later, police say she found Jailene unresponsive.
We were absolutely heartbroken. We loved Jailene a lot.
Iris and Sulem wish Calendario would have asked them to watch Jailene.
I wish for her to pay what she did to her daughter.
Wow.
Instead, they're left with an investigation and reminders of Jailene's many visits.
Jailene really didn't deserve what happened to her. She was amazing and really adorable, and I miss her a lot.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow to.
All right. So, wow. Like I said, very, very tough case to listen to. Very, very tough case to take in. So, fast forward. She gets arrested. She's being held on $1 million bond. Obviously, it's almost indefensible. So what does she do? Let's go here. Hold on. Let me share the tab first. Get you guys up with me on what I'm reading. So this is what happens. In February, she pleads guilty. But she, and as part of the plea deal, now the state agrees to drop some of the charges, but they don't agree to a sentence. So here's an article from when she took that plea deal. An Ohio mother whose 16-month-old daughter died after being left home alone in a playpen for 10 days last summer. Oh, hold on. We don't want to ruin I guess we're going to ruin it, aren't we? They must have added this in. But anyways, she ended up pleading guilty, throwing herself at the mercy of the court. And let's switch in. We're going to switch into the video room here. She pleads guilty. She's facing life in prison without parole. And in exchange for pleading guilty, she agrees to have, or the state agrees to drop a couple of the other charges that they had. So she pleads guilty to aggravated unaliving and child abuse, child neglect. And essentially leads to what happened today. So she has a sentencing hearing today, and that's what we're going to cover. So let's... So with that little introduction and kind of halfway spoiling what the sentence ends up being, we're going to jump into this hearing now. And it's about an hour or so long. So we're going to jump in here and watch this hearing and see what the sentence is. So let's jump in. Some of you may have already followed it. Some of you may already know. As you can see that news article, they updated sections of it with the outcome of the hearing today. But regardless, we're going to watch this hearing together, see what we think, see if we think the sentencing is fair, if it's what it should be, and check it out. So let's check this out. Here we go.
Before we start, we've had numerous pre-trials on this matter, and we have an interpreter here that's been involved in all the proceedings. And Robert is here. Robert, do you want to stand up? Robert, you've been involved with the court. Your training and credentials as an interpreter has been reviewed by this court, and you are familiar with the National Association for Judiciary Interpreters and Translators, the Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility, and you've interpreted here many times in this court. Robert, I want you understand that you are to be a neutral party who is here to facilitate communication, and that you should not offer advice or interject your opinion into these proceedings. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So with that, is there any objection to Robert being the interpreter for this hearing?
Not on behalf of the state, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
All right. So Robert, you want to raise your right hand? You do solemnly swear that you will interpret accurately, completely, and impartially, using the best skill and judgment in accordance with the standards prescribed by law, and follow the official guidelines established by this court for legal interpreting or translating, and discharge all of the solemn duties and obligations of legal interpretation and translations as you shall answer unto God. Please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you, Robert. All right. All right. So we're here today for a sentencing hearing. Ms. Candelaria, on February the 22nd, you pled guilty to count 1, which is titled aggravated murder, an unclassified felony, which is potential sentence of life with parole eligibility after 20 years, life with parole eligibility after 25 years, life with parole eligibility after 30 years.
So I guess she felt like
without parole.
I mean, that would have been the same opportunity she would
You
have had if
also
she
pled
went to
guilty
trial.
to count 5, endangering children, which is a felony of the 2nd degree, which is punishable by 2 to 8 years and/or a $15,000 fine. And there's also the Reagan-Tokes advisements I advised you of, which is whatever sentence this court imposes on count 5 must be served 50% of that number. So we went through that at the plea, so you understand that. At that time of the plea, we requested a pre-sentence investigation report. We received a report from Michael Rahm, R-A-H-M, on February the 28th. I shared it with both the state and the defense. Ms. Feralia, Mr. Smith, have you had a chance to review this report?
I have, Your Honor. Yes, we have, Your Honor.
Any additions or corrections to this report by either party?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
I also have received sentencing memorandums and mitigation reports from the defense by Mr. Smith and Mr. Milligan, and I also received a state sentencing memorandum by Ms. Feralia. With that being said, is there any additions or corrections that this court needs to review?
With regards to the briefs, no, Your Honor.
The briefs, yes.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Candelaria, are you ready to proceed to sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
With that being said, this is the procedure we're going to follow. I'm going to turn to the state first. Ms. Feralia, you'll put on your sentencing hearing and allow you to present evidence and victim impact statements. And then when I hear from the state and all the state's representatives,
I have no idea how she could leave a child that young.
I'll hear from you, Mr. Smith, and anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of Ms. Candelaria.
Alone for 10 days.
And then I'll
That's
hear from
sick.
you, Ms.
It's terrible.
Candelaria, and then I'll impose my sentence, okay? That's how we're going to operate. So with that being said, Ms. Feralia, are you ready to proceed then?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. We're here on a very tragic case. The state of Ohio has prepared a PowerPoint presentation because the state wants you, when you impose your sentence, that you look at Crystal Candelaria's actions. And anybody that knows me or has been in this courthouse would know that I talk about actions in all my cases.
It's unspeakable
Because as
what she did.
adults, we are responsible for our actions, and there are consequences to our actions.
I mean,
So let us begin on this fateful day that Jaylene Candelaria lost her life. If in fact we would have gone to trial, the evidence was going to show that Crystal
I am not certain who she went with.
left the state of Ohio on 6/4/2023.
I think they're going to get into it.
She leaves because there is a receipt that's found in her car that she is in Taylor, Michigan. Unbeknownst to Ms. Candelaria, her neighbors had Ring doorbell, and the Cleveland Police
I agree. She is a
Homicide Unit
absolute
has
monster.
gone through
I mean, it's unthinkable. I don't.
648 hours and videos of the Ring doorbell, which you're going to see in this presentation. With regards to Ms. Candelaria, she returns to Cuyahoga County on 6/6 at 7:41 a.m. So at this particular point, we have reason to believe that this child was left alone for 2 days now, and she returns on 6/6/2023. Additional cameras show her again at 11:51 on 6/6 and on 5/24 of 6/6. She is taking a suitcase and now leaving Cuyahoga County. We have a map and a flock camera which shows her on, I believe it's Lafayette and Charter, northbound, at 6-6 at 20.05, which is 8:05 p.m., and that's a flock camera. Through the search warrants, we were able to retrieve her Spirit airline tickets that showed her departure and her return from Puerto Rico. She was gone from 6/8 to 6/11.
Puerto Rico. You're going to leave your child unattended and go to Puerto Rico?
It's interesting, Your Honor, because in the defense memorandum, it says that her abrupt stopping of medications played a significant role in her ability to function as a parent and make sound decisions. So when we look at, these are items from her phone, her actions indicate to us that she is in Puerto Rico having a good time with friends, and that there is not a care in the world about the 16-month-old that was left alone in the pack and play. These pictures show somebody who is showing sound discretion and judgment because she's having a good time. Meanwhile, this child is in a pack and play. She returns to Detroit, and while she is in Puerto Rico, the detectives were able to locate on the Ring doorbell that on 6/9/2023 at around 1:04 a.m. in the morning that you hear this child crying.
Oh. Oh my God. Wow. This is horrific. I do too, Ian. I do too. I mean, and look at her. She doesn't even care. She's not even crying.
Miss Candelaria's car.
She doesn't even care.
From Puerto Rico back to Michigan, where
Man, I'll tell you.
One fellow, and then
Make it easy to impose that life without parole to someone like her. Not even a tear. Not even like she cares.
Traveled to Imlay, Michigan, to be with another fellow.
Horrendous doesn't even begin.
To 6:15, her car is found on all these flock cameras. Not one.
Unbelievable.
Returning to Cuyahoga County.
You'd think she'd. Anyways.
Now we turn our attention to June 16th At 7:36 a.m., she is back in Cuyahoga County. Her car reappears in front of her house. She goes in and she finds her daughter dead. She takes the time to redress her, and then she calls 911.
Friday, June 16, 2023, 07:47 and 26 seconds. Please release dispatching protocol, unit police, fire, or EMS. Police, fire, EMS. What's the address?
Yeah, now you're upset after you left her for 10 days.
Okay, is there a single or an apartment? What's your name? Crystal. What's your last name, Crystal? Please help me. And what's your number? What's your disconnected? 507-882. Tell me what's going on. What's going on? Calm down. And then you just tell me what happened. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few moments. Calm down. Crystal. Please listen to me so I can help you. She's not responsive. She's blind. She's blind. She's white. You can't hear her. Please protect the family. I can't speak English. I'm understanding you. Tell me who's white. Who's white? Please.
At least we're seeing a little bit of emotion now.
And then she's so overwrought with emotion on June 17th that she picks up and goes back to Michigan to meet up, not with the guy that she had gone to Puerto Rico with, but the other guy that she was seeing. And in her house during a search warrant, there was found this notebook that had written harm from neglect. This is the location where Jaylene was housed for 10 days without anybody being present, any adult, in a 3x2 pack and play with maybe a bottle or two of milk and maybe some crackers. And the mattress that was found was urine laden and feces strewn throughout the pack and play.
This is terrible. I mean,
now, this is where it begins, Your Honor.
oh my God.
I come from
My
an Italian
God.
Catholic family, and both my parents were immigrants and they spoke broken English. And we have this good interpreter that has been with us during this whole case. This is the very first interview, the crying of the 911, and this is the first interview that she has with a detective from homicide. Again, pay attention to her actions and how she speaks to this detective.
But in the last week, she get a vomiting too. Remember right now, we do mention the vomiting. She get a vomiting the last week, Monday and Tuesday, 2 times. But I was trying controlling because I know I give to her Tylenol or something, you know, for controlling the vomiting.
Okay. Come on, sir. This is my supervisor, Sergeant
I'm
Gomez.
very addicted too. I give to her when she get a diarrhea or vomiting too.
Well, just to take note, Your Honor.
So yeah, that's the situation, and after that, she was refusing to the food, and she was with no appetite. I said, oh my God.
This is after last Monday and Tuesday when she was throwing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you talking about Monday and Tuesday like 4 days ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because we almost done this week, so I talk about,
Because what, this week?
This week. Yeah, I talk about because we almost done, you know.
Oh, we're almost done with this week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that was just Monday and Tuesday of this week. She was throwing up.
Yes.
And then how was she Wednesday and Thursday?
She was with no food, just with a meal because she was refusing. Maybe it's because she get a vomiting 2 days, before.
Yeah.
So that's why I was scary because I say, oh my God, we need to go to the hospital because she doesn't eat anything. And she was lose tiny, her weight. I lose, her weight. But right now, in this morning when I wake up, she was asleep. She sleep every day 12 hours.
Okay.
She sleep like at 9 p.m. through 9 or 10 a.m.
Okay.
12 hours. So, in this morning I was sleeping.
Yep, it's all made up, Ian, because she was out of town this whole time.
What was going on last night?
Last night she was crying a lot. And I see one moment when I was take a shower, and she was screaming like, I don't know, probably she get a pain.
Okay.
Maybe.
About what time was that last night?
Maybe at 7 or 8 p.m.
Okay.
So she was screaming like, probably for pain or something like that. In this morning when I wake up, I took her in the morning for Jaylene, wake up, and she wake up, and when I see her, I see she looks like a really, really dry, like a, ¿cómo se dice cuando una persona se chupa, o sea,
kind of like, like her face was sunken in?
Y ahí fue que yo me asusté y dije,
And then she is then brought into homicide. She's arrested and brought into homicide and has another conversation with Sergeant Gomez and Detective Powell, and she continues now to perpetuate her lies.
What time did you go to Detroit, Michigan on Monday? Monday morning? Okay, on Monday morning.
This is unbelievable, man. I don't understand how a mother could do this to a 16-month-old child. It's unthinkable.
So, you go to Michigan. What time did you arrive in Michigan?
Yo salí through here. Creo que no te llegaste a Michigan. hotel and she right away started working at Uber.
Pero ya después fui a visitar a otras amistades alrededor.
She went to visit some friends.
Y
Who did you go visit?
amistades.
Who? Give me a name.
Oh, David, that's the name.
David?
Yeah.
David. So you arrived at 2 hours later, you get a hotel. Where did you stay?
No me recuerdo bien la ciudad que él estaba ni el hotel.
Okay, come on. Todavía to Detroit, Michigan, you don't know what city, you don't know what hotel, you gotta come up with something better than that.
No,
Okay.
pero el hotel de donde él se estaba hospedando,
No,
Super A.
where you were staying, not David, where you were staying. We're not talking about David.
Super A, that's it.
Super 8?
Yeah.
Alright, so you arrived at 2 hours later, you said it's Super 8, you mentioned something about Uber.
Yo estaba trabajando en Uber, sí.
She was working Uber. Why would you go, hold on, why would you go work Uber in Detroit, Michigan,
Porque yo
instead of doing it here in Cleveland,
Sí, porque
where your daughter is?
yo también trabajaba aquí en Uber, aquí en Cleveland.
Okay, why go over there and not do it here? Why not do it here? Your daughter's here.
Porque me iba a ver amistades también en Michigan, entonces
She
aproveché.
friends over there in Michigan, so she took advantage of the fact that she was over there to visit people, she worked over there.
Pero no era siempre que yo lo hacía.
But not always. That's not, she didn't do that always.
And don't take this the wrong way. At what point did you think that it would make sense to leave her here when you go to Detroit?
Él dice que no coge esto de la manera mal, pero ¿en qué momento tú pensaste que está bien
Por pasear, por
to travel?
por pasear,
Why not travel with you?
¿Por qué no llevaste a David contigo?
porque yo pensaba regresar el viernes y ya quedarme con ella, o sea, era algo rápido, eventual, que no.
She said that because she had planned on returning on Friday and spending time with her then, so
Porque no me iba a quedar en la casa de nadie.
she wasn't going to stay in anybody's house.
But why not bring her with you if you already knew that she had a condition going on at the time?
Si tú sabías que ella tenía una condición y estaba enfermita, ¿por qué no llevarla contigo?
Porque por eso mismo, por yo pasear, por
She wanted to have a good time and travel.
And this is the second interview that she had.
Cash in your wallet to purchase the same thing. You took out money from the ATM machine, that's what you used.
siempre hago super.
All right, so let's just start, we're gonna wrap up some stuff here.
I agree.
Okay, so.
I mean, she had neighbors, outdoorsy life. I don't know if you saw the clippings I was playing before. She had neighbors who would have gladly cared for this child. It makes no sense.
Él me dijo hace un momento, bueno, en inglés, que te dejó mi seguimiento de donde yo me movilicé y todo eso.
Yeah, we have you on video. We have you on video. Your car coming home at 7:36 in the morning. What time are we going to see you leaving your house, and when? What's the video going to show us? When we look at this video some more.
Okay.
Cuando nosotros empezamos a velar el video, okay, ¿qué ese video nos va a enseñar a nosotros? ¿A qué hora tú saliste de tu casa?
Whose parents, Ian?
Nos está enseñando tú regresando a las 7:36 de la mañana. Pero ¿a qué hora tú te fuiste? ¿Y qué día? Piénsalo bien, porque el video no va a ser, el video no miente. Okay? I'm telling you, think about it really good because the video does not lie. What is the video going to show us? Is the video going to show us?
I don't even know if her parents are actually in the country. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
We're going to look at the video and it's going to show us and it's not going to lie. Think about your answer. Think about your answer.
Well, thanks for stopping in, Outdoorsy Life. I'm glad you found it. But yeah, if you go back earlier, you'll see I have some clips where her neighbors got interviewed. Oh, they are? Okay. Why? Maybe they will address that. I don't know.
With regards to Jaylene Candelario, she died a very awful death for being 16 months old. Dr. Elizabeth Mooney from the medical examiner's office is here and would like to make a statement. She was the medical examiner that did the autopsy, and the state of Ohio is going to provide you the autopsy and autopsy photographs to make this part of the sentencing record. Dr. Mooney?
For the record, we'll call this
State's Exhibit
State's
1.
Exhibit 1 in the court.
Good morning.
Hi, Doctor. For the record, can you
Brace yourselves. This
say
is
your name
not
and
going to be
spell it
pretty.
in court report?
This is not going to be
My name
pretty.
is Dr. Elizabeth Mooney, and it's spelled Mooney.
Okay, Doctor.
I am currently employed by Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office as a forensic pathologist and deputy medical examiner. In this capacity, I was assigned the task of performing an autopsy on little girl Jaylene Candelario in order to determine her cause and manner of death. Unfortunately, this is one of the most tragic and unfortunate cases I've had in my career thus far. So today I speak on behalf of her and her findings with the course of my examination. We received Jaylene at the medical examiner's office from the scene of her residence, at which time she was clothed in non-soiled clothing, indicating her body had likely been dressed prior to first responders' arrival, as they had mentioned before. So at autopsy, I examined the body of a very emaciated female toddler. At this point, she weighed 13 pounds. Upon review of medical records, this indicated approximately a 7-pound weight loss.
I agree. I agree.
Doctor's visit less
It's
than
something
2
that we
months prior.
cannot tolerate,
The eyes were sunken, and she had temporal wasting.
especially stuff
in her
like
face.
this.
In addition to that, the skin showed markedly decreased turgor, meaning when I pinch the skin, it remains in that tented position, indicating severe dehydration. In addition, there was abundant fecal material present, caked on the fingers, the fingernails, the hands, the feet, as well as the soles of the feet. The same material was found on her lips, which were very dry and flaking, as well as in her oral cavity, caked to her teeth. She did have some diaper rash apparent, as well as fecal material adherent to those areas. Of note, the body was essentially free
Which
of
man is that?
significant injury, with the exception of dried excoriations or scratches to the face region predominantly, and whether or not these were inflicted to herself in a conscious or semi-conscious state while she was dying, I'm unable to determine that. Very early decompositional changes were present. This included faint discoloration or green discoloration of the abdomen. These are typically changes that we see within 2 to 3 days following death. No additional changes to suggest that she passed away prior to this were found externally or internally. Upon internal examination, I continued to find evidence consistent with starvation and dehydration. These included pale discoloration of the musculature, which was minimal. There was a decrease in intra-abdominal fat to the point of transparency as her body tried to feed upon itself for nutrients. Her stomach contents consisted of less than 2 milliliters of brown mucoid material. This is about equivalent to the distal part of my thumb, a very small amount. The rest of her bowel just contained patchy fecal material, but very minimal throughout. Her organs, including her liver, kidneys, and thymic gland, showed evidence of stress, specifically microscopically on exam. I found no additional evidence of significant natural disease going on or congenital.
Oh, you're talking about the Soto case, or the Madeline Soto?
Following my exam,
Yes.
I submitted
Yes.
body fluids for additional toxicology and chemistry testing, which further confirmed my gross findings that she had passed in a state of severe dehydration. Her kidneys had failed, and she was in a state of ketoacidosis, which leads to coma and eventually death. As such, I determined the cause of death to be just that, starvation and severe dehydration due to pediatric neglect. To come to the exact wording of the cause of death was based on my findings, but also the medical definitions, which I'd like to reiterate here. Dehydration, and specifically starvation, is a lengthy and continuous deprivation of food as to cause suffering or death. Pediatric neglect is the failure of a caregiver to meet adequately a child's basic needs, including physical safety, protection, food, clothing, shelter, education, medical, or dental care.
Well, Ian, I think it's an issue of making sure they have the evidence to prove the case. They've got him arrested on
resulted in her death.
various other serious charges, so he isn't getting out of jail.
Most homicide
And
deaths involve acts of
you know,
violence inflicted from
you'd
one
rather
person
them take their
onto another.
time,
But this
I mean,
case involves a
especially in the
failure to
case
act
they've got
appropriately
other stuff they
to
can hold him
support
on.
another who is dependent on them, falling into a homicidal manner. In the absence of more advanced decompositional changes, I believe that the pain and suffering she endured lasted not only hours, not days, but possibly even a week. This is a pain that comes from an extreme thirst and hunger. It also stems from an inherent terror of isolation, or the lack of someone present to provide that. My knowledge on the depth of this suffering may not be as extensive as a medical or a mental health professional, but as a physician with psychiatric and pediatric training, I feel comfortable stating that the deprivation of food coupled with physical isolation and caregiver abandonment would be terrifying.
I can't.
We know that babies and children cry when they're hungry because it's unsettling and it's uncomfortable. That's almost immediately after birth. We also know that children as early as age 4 to 5 months experience separation anxiety, with the most extreme anxiety around 9 to 18 months. Jalen was 16 months old. This feeling of abandonment for days on end, coupled with the pain of starvation and extreme thirst, is a type of suffering I don't think any of us could ever fully
And the
fathom.
child could do nothing about it. It couldn't
So, as a forensic pathologist, it is said that we are the voice of the dead and given the responsibility to speak for those who can't. So this morning, I'm honored to maintain that mission. Thank you.
In addition, Your Honor, just so the record is very clear, the state of Ohio has tried repeatedly to contact Jalen's extended family, and absolutely no one has called the prosecutor's office, has returned a call from the prosecutor's office, has done nothing to acknowledge that Jaylene was even part of their family. So if people come in this morning, it's going to be on the side of Crystal Candelaria, because on the part of Jaylene, in addition to Dr. Mooney, who speaks for the dead through autopsy findings, Sergeant Teresa Gomez and Detective TJ Powell are going to speak to you. As you also look behind me, it is law enforcement, whether it be from Cleveland Homicide, from the FBI, from the district, from EMS. These are all the people that participated in this case, and that they are here to be the family for Jaylene Candelario, because her own family did not have the courage to call the prosecutor's office and ask what was going on with their case. They were more concerned with their own daughter. TJ is going to, Sergeant is going to speak first. Do you want her to come to the podium?
Absolutely. Same thing, Sergeant. Just say your name and spell it for our court reporter so she can have an accurate spelling.
Teresa Gomez, Teresa Gomez. Good morning, Your Honor. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to be the voice for Jaylene Candelario, a beautiful angel whose life was cut short for no good reason. This tragedy should have never happened. I am Sergeant Gomez from the Homicide Unit. The entire Homicide Unit, Cleveland Homicide Initiative, and our partners from the FBI are here today in honor of baby Jaylene Candelario. When we were first notified of this horrific case, we were all heartbroken. But when we started digging deeper into the investigation, it was beyond horrific.
I agree.
It was revealed that the defendant, Crystal Candelario, left her own child alone for hours, which led to days, which led to weeks. This 16-month-old baby was left alone in a pack and play to fend for herself for 11 days with no food, maybe milk, the clothing she had on, and the diaper she was wearing. This baby loved her mother, she needed her mother, and her mother betrayed her. Mothers usually want their children to have a long, happy life. But Candelaria
Look at her
placed
behind
more importance
this police
on a
officer. She's not even
vacation in
crying.
Puerto Rico with her boyfriend than the health, safety, and well-being of her own daughter. She chose to satisfy her own needs and desires over that of her own child. Jaylene's life ended because of her selfishness.
Yes, I saw that.
and
We're going to
disregard
discuss
for
that
Jaylene's precious life.
briefly, but that's going to actually be
Candelaria
one of
violated
the cases
Jaylene
covered
yet again
tomorrow night.
when she placed her little body in a clean outfit in order to orchestrate this facade that she was trying to portray for the investigators, either before or after she called 911. But Jaylene told us something different when we saw her eyes sunk in and wide open. We later learned that sunken eyes is a result of severe dehydration. To the naked eye, it appeared she had dirt in her mouth and fingernails. It wasn't until the next day that detectives learned that the dirt in fact was feces. Detectives also began to gain clarity as to what really happened to Jaylene. Candelaria's fabricated story, which she initially told detectives, began to unravel.
I mean, oh.
There's no way things could have happened the way the defendant said they did, which left us with many unanswered questions. Detectives gained knowledge of the fact that Candelaria left Jaylene by herself for more than 10 days. Many hours of video surveillance revealed all of the comings and goings of Candelaria from June 5th through June 16th of 2023, when she discovered her daughter deceased. Investigators watched a total of 628 surveillance videos, which also included audio. On June 9th, audio surveillance captured the final time Jaylene is ever heard crying. Myself and the people sitting behind me, many who are mothers and fathers, are tormented.
She's going
by
to
the
have
thought
an
of what
absolutely
Jaylene endured
horrific
and
time
what
serving
last
her
hours
sentence.
on
I
earth
can
were
assure
like.
you of that. I can assure
Any
you
of
of that.
us and thousands of others would have jumped at the opportunity to take care of this beautiful little girl. Jaylene died a long and agonizing death, afraid and alone, while her mother enjoyed the beach and sunshine. This is a case that myself, all the people behind me, and everyone around the world will have branded in our minds and in our hearts forever. Jaylene took her last breath, and our only hope is that Jaylene found herself in the arms of Jesus, feeling his warm embrace and love, something she did not receive from her mother. Jaylene, you will never be forgotten. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Sergeant.
And Detective Powell.
Sure. Same thing, Detective, if you don't mind, just please say and spell your first and last name.
Yes, Detective T.J. Powell, P-O-W-E-L-L, assigned to the Cleveland Police Homicide Unit. I was the lead detective investigator on this case, and I can honestly say, Your Honor, in my 17-year career as a Cleveland police officer, this by far is most horrific case I've ever had to investigate. Now, I've been a detective for 10 years. First and foremost, I want to thank the entire homicide unit, the entire Cleveland Police Department, prosecutor's office. As you see, we're here, we're Jaylene's voice. Fortunately, there's no family on our side, but we're her family. I wrote a short poem, just something in commemoration of Jaylene's life. J is for the justice that'll be received today. A is for the angel wings she earned on that dreadful day. I is for the incremental repetition build-up of suspense for an innocent bystander's death that clearly makes no sense. L is for the lack of love while alone for 11 days. Y is for a young life that was taken away. N is for new eternal life Jaylene gained on that day. No child should ever have to die this way. Jaylen's life truly mattered. Unfortunately, she died trying to survive off of her own urine and fecal matter.
Lastly, Your Honor, you're going to hear that Ms. Candelaria was depressed. And no one more than I appreciate mental health and mental health issues and the programs that this court and my office have tried to implement to help folks with mental health. This is not the case here. This is not
I
the case
agree.
at
You can
all.
tell that defense
Her
attorney wants to be
actions
anywhere but where he's
louder
at.
than words. She had the wherewithal to leave Cuyahoga County and drive to Detroit, to be not with one man, but with two, let alone leaving a child, her own flesh and blood, in a pack and play. And during the time that she has been locked up, she has been making plans for the future, talking to other folks at other jails, other prisons. She had a conversation, which I find more disturbing than not, but on November 26, 2023, instead of wrought with emotion, wrought with guilt, crying about the death of her child, she's talking with a friend about her trip to Puerto Rico and what a blast it was and how much the car cost, and they got a truck versus a car even though it was more expensive, and they were concerned about the other woman that was on the trip because she liked to spend money, and they spent money on food. There was never mention about her daughter in her phone calls, and in fact, on January 6th of 2024, she's talking to her mother, who she repeatedly talks to, and they talk about God is forgiving, God is this. You also have to take responsibility for your actions, and God isn't in the courtroom. That's why we have judges, and that's why we have the law, because we have to follow the law. But this is what she says, because, you know, she wants to make us believe that she doesn't understand the English language. She goes on to say, there are people who have gone free here, killing people. I mean, imagine. I mean, intentionally, and mine was practically an accident. I mean, because it was not like I did it intentionally. It's not like I picked up a gun or a bat or the girl bled or something like that. That's it. It was practically the same thing that happened to me a few days prior. I had had the same thing happen to me days prior. And I mean that day that it happened, that same situation happened. Were you starved when you were in Puerto Rico, Miss Candelaria? Did you not have a glass of water to drink when your mouth was parched? It is really pretty pathetic, Your Honor, because, you know, we always stand before you and say that the purposes and principles of sentencing are to punish the offender and to protect the public. And, you know, in the sentencing memorandum, the defense says, well, she's not going to do it again. Well, no, she's not going to do it again because she's going to prison. But it's the fact that she did it in the beginning that sticks with us. You don't do that. She was a
Well,
mother.
they have the death penalty in Ohio, but currently it's suspended. So I think that was part of the benefit of her being able to take the plea in this case is it took the death penalty possibility off the table and gives her attorney the opportunity to argue for a 20-year, basically 20 years to life. So she gets parole and potential for parole in 20 years if the judge would give it to her.
She abandoned her daughter and left her for dead. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's facing the death penalty, I believe.
See the aftermath of a baseball bat.
Yeah.
But what she
They had
did
addressed that
see
back when he was arrested. They said they were still, they could still pursue it, but it's suspended technically.
do this to me?
But they could still
Thank you.
give him the death penalty, and unless they got rid of it, and then they would just commute everybody to life without parole. All right, here we go. What can she say, right? God, what a sick case.
May it please the court, everything that I'm about to get into here today, and my client agrees with me, is no justification for her actions. And what the prosecution said, actions matter, and these actions are narcissistic, selfish, abhorrent, absolutely worst parenting imaginable. She pled to aggravated murder. She pled to child endangering. So everything we're about to tell you is mitigation. Just to kind of give you an understanding of who this person is. So she came over.
Watch. She's going to get emotional now, right, when her attorney's talking. Not about the medical examiner's testimony or the police officers who had to go through investigating this thing, talking about all the heinous things she did, but she's going to get emotional when it comes to her thinking about her sentence.
They had a relationship that unfortunately turned violent. While she was pregnant with Jaylene, he became physical with her. She came back to Cleveland and never see him again, gave birth to Jaylene. He was never involved in Jaylene's life. She had 2 daughters on her with the help of her parents. She was struggling emotionally, physically, trying to work, support these children. Fast forward to 2023. It's just overwhelming. She even tried to harm herself. Took 20 Motrin. Ended up in Metro. In early February of 23, after spending just a few days in her room alone, her mother went to check on her, asked her what was going on. Her whole side of her body was numb. Didn't know what was going on. They took her to Hillcrest Hospital. She was admitted there, and they were doing some evaluations for her migraine. She was complaining about headaches and weakness, facial drooping, thought it was possible stroke. They put her on IV Depakote, which is a anti-seizure, also used to treat manic disorder. And at the end of the day, after evaluations, she was clean, nothing wrong with her brain. They gave her oral Depakote and Effexor, 2 antidepressants, and sent her home. She was not very clear on what those were, but she was taking them supposedly as directed. And then she returned to Hillcrest Hospital again in March, and there was a note from the doctor saying that she should have had plenty of Effexor, but she's saying that she's out and she needs more, and she's coming back with the same problems. So they got her evaluated again, and they were saying that her anxiety and her stress was the trigger for these physical manifestations to what was happening to her, for the loss of sensation in the side of her body, the numbness. And they prescribed her more Depakote, more Effexor, and also Atarax to help her sleep.
That's actually not the attorney. That's actually an interpreter because she doesn't know English. So what he's doing, my assumption is it's supposed to help her hear his voice. So he's actually speaking everything her attorney says in Spanish to her.
She stopped. Not supposed to do that with these drugs, Your Honor. These are very serious mental health drugs, and you need to be tapered off of these medications, or there could be some side effects. Not only the side effects, but the actual underlying conditions that she may have had or been suffering from are also going unmedicated at this time. And then we get into her trip. And I'm not going through that again. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I commend the prosecution and the detectives for their work. It was unimaginable, terrible, and I feel for all you guys having to deal with that too, and her family as well. It's when the prosecution showed pictures of her on her trip. Pictures can be deceiving. Personally, for having myself suffer from depression and anxiety, you can't tell what a person's going through from a picture, what they're dealing with on the inside. And I'm thankful for the support that I had from my family, my friends, and my doctors. She didn't have any of that. She was hiding it from herself, from her parents. Nobody knew what she was suffering from. Her doctors even thought it was minor.
Justify leaving your 16-month-old child in a pack and play for 10 days? There's a lot of depressed people out there, but they don't do that.
Devoid of emotion.
It's horrible.
After hearing what had happened on the news, and then I get the call she wants to meet with me, and I go talk to her, it was not what I expected. It's this, she had no emotion. She couldn't explain anything. I had no idea who I was talking to. But I'll tell you right now, this is not the same person. This person now is
She still doesn't have any emotion.
Medications. She's been taking them through the prison throughout the whole time that she's been in here. Again, there's no justification for her action when she was out there, what she was doing. She could have called somebody, she could have done this, yes. But
there's no justification for doing what she did. She
off medication, mismanaging your thoughts, you're not thinking.
Tortured her child to death.
She had to get out, and she was having fun. If she was okay, in her mind, Jaylene was okay. Of course that's not the case. But I will point to when she did finally get home, and we heard that 911 call. She didn't want.
I know this is a joke of a defense. I mean, where's the expert that comes in and testifies about the depression to try to help the court? Oh, look at her crying now. There she's crying now. Not when they describe the death of her child.
Breach from whatever was going on in her head, that reality that her daughter was dying. She was calling for help. She didn't want that. And again, Your Honor, she took responsibility. She pled to aggravated murder. She pled to child endangering. Nothing's going to bring Jaylene back. She knows that. So then, after the fact, in her state, she was telling detectives whatever. She thought she had another daughter.
I mean, I don't even know what.
She had her parents. And then the prosecution saying that nobody's here on behalf of Jaylene, that's wrong. Her parents are here. They love that girl. They love Jaylene. Her mother loved Jaylene. She didn't deserve what happened to her. Nobody does.
Ian, this is not his best. Trust me. No. What he's doing is spiking the football. That's what he's
So
doing.
this time around, I'd like to call her parents up to
Sure. And same thing.
I mean,
please identify themselves, spell their first and last name.
He should have had. I've not heard a mention of any reports. I've not heard the mention of any psychologists. I've not heard the mention of any psychiatrists. I've not heard the mention of doctors that have come and seen her. Maybe we'll get to that. But this defense attorney.
I'm going to ask.
I mean,
first then.
He's a goofball. I mean,
she's just going to talk. He's just here.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry.
I mean, it's. This is not good.
Katie Torres. Mi nombre?
Katie Torres.
Okay, and can you spell it for the record, Robert?
But perhaps maybe he wasn't inspired to do better. I mean, I don't know.
K-E-T-T-Y.
K-E-T-T-Y. Torres con S o.
This should be very interesting.
Torres, T-O-R-R-E-S.
Okay, and present with her is her husband and his name?
¿Es su nombre, señor?
Tu nombre. Tu nombre.
Clever Candelario. ¿Cómo?
Remember, this interpreter works for the defense. You don't have the names of the people already lined up. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
This gentleman has
This is ridiculous.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, clever.
I mean, this interpreter's been with the defense the entire time. So you'd have thought that the defense attorney would have already had all of this choreographed. You can tell this is, I'm assuming this guy is appointed,
Candelario con C.
Candelario.
and this is what you get with appointed
Same as
counsel.
You're good? All right, good.
Okay, bien, señor. Frase por frase.
Excelentísimos jueces de la Corte,
Honorable Judge of the Court,
con el corazón partido en 1000 pedazos,
with my heart ripped apart in 1,000 pieces,
pero desde el amor y sostenida por Dios,
but speaking from love and maintained by God,
estoy aquí para decirle al mundo
I am here to tell the world
que mi hija salió de un hogar
that my daughter came from a home
donde se creó una relación de humanismo,
where there was relations of humanism,
valores,
values,
creencias,
beliefs,
afectos,
emotions,
calidez,
warmth,
donde lo más importante era la familia.
where the most important thing was the family.
Cristel creció y se formó
I mean, this interpreter don't sound like he's really interpreting the correct stuff to
en
me.
un
I don't know.
ambiente
Who
sano
speaks like
junto a sus
this?
padres.
In a healthy environment together with her parents,
Protegida y amada.
protected and loved.
Realizó sus
No wonder
estudios
she
en
wasn't
nuestro
crying
país
when she's
natal,
supposed to.
Ecuador,
He probably didn't even getting this stuff right. I mean, he's
She studied and was educated in our native country of Ecuador,
escogiendo la misma profesión de su abuelo y sus padres.
and she chose the same profession as her fathers and her grandfather,
La docencia.
teaching.
Sus años de edad adulta fueron marcados
Her years as an adult were marked by
por problemas de salud física y sentimentales,
both physical and emotional problems
que no siempre terminaron de la mejor manera.
that didn't always end up in the best way.
Su salud emocional se vio afectada en más de una ocasión.
Her emotional health was affected on more than one occasion.
Pero entre trabajo, responsabilidades y el día a día,
But between her work, her other responsibilities, and her day-to-day life,
en un ir y venir, no logró priorizar la importancia de un tratamiento continuo.
in the middle of all that, she never ended up prioritizing or appreciating the importance of continued treatment.
Por lo que la depresión y la ansiedad y el trastorno de neurosis de conversión fueron ganando terreno en su vida.
And because of all that, her depression, anxiety, her conversion neurosis disorder, all ended up consuming her.
Razón por la que siempre sufría desmayos y pérdida del conocimiento.
And as a result of this, she suffered fainting spells and also loss of consciousness.
Con esto no quiero victimizar ni justificar a nadie.
In saying this, I don't want to victimize or justify anyone.
Solo mirar el yo interior de quien hoy está aquí sentada y siendo juzgada.
I only want to give a glimpse of the interior person, the ego of someone who is seated here and who is being judged.
Señores, las enfermedades de salud mental no se reflejan en el rostro.
Ladies and gentlemen, the sickness, mental health illness is not reflected
Ni
in
en
someone's face,
ni en una foto.
and also not in a picture, in a photo.
Nacen y se quedan en el alma
It arises and remains in the soul.
Solo un tratamiento a tiempo y eficaz con ayuda de terapistas y médicos ayudan a mejorarlo.
And only a timely and effective treatment by therapists and doctors can help to improve those conditions.
Mi hija no tenía calidad de vida
My daughter did not have a good quality of life
porque ella no podía pausar el trabajo.
because she couldn't stop working.
Nunca nadie imaginó que este sufrimiento
So you're
terminaría en tragedia.
gonna blame her leaving her 16-month-old daughter alone, torturing her because of work-life balance? Are you kidding me?
And here I'm.
Que eres nuestro ángel, Yailin.
I want to say here before Jaylene, our angel,
Tu recuerdo vive en nosotros.
that your memory lives within us.
Siempre te amaremos.
We will always love you.
Te acuné en mis brazos.
I held you in my arms.
Tus abuelos nunca te olvidarán.
Your grandparents will never forget you.
Perdóname, bebé,
Forgive me
por vivir la oscuridad del conocimiento
for being in the dark
que me imposibilitó ver la luz y poder ayudar a tu
and for being in
madre.
the darkness that prevented me from seeing the light to see what was going on with your mother.
Hija querida, cuánto te amo.
My beloved daughter, I love you so much.
Lamento y me arrepiento
I lament and I am
por no
so
haber
sorry
por no haber detectado lo que estabas viviendo.
for not having detected what you were going through.
No leí tu corazón.
I could not see what was in your heart.
No me percaté del caos
I didn't notice the chaos
por el que estabas atravesando.
that you were going through.
Lamento ahora, hija de mi vida, causarte este dolor.
I lament my darling daughter that I caused you this pain.
Señores de esta sala,
Your Honor,
pido misericordia,
I ask for mercy.
clemencia y compasión
I ask for mercy, for clemency, and for compassion
para un ser humano
for a human being.
que ha librado una dura batalla en su vida.
What mercy did she give her daughter for 10 days while she let her starve to death and eat her own feces?
And I beg that you not
Ni señalarla.
I beg that you not demonize her and point the finger at her.
¿Quién en esta vida no ha pecado contra Dios?
Who in this life has not sinned against God?
We're at a different level of sin. What are you talking about?
Anyone who has
This isn't a mistake. This was traveling to Puerto Rico while your 16-month-old daughter is in a pack and play. I'm sorry.
En un Dios de perdón.
And a God of forgiveness.
Él está aquí con nosotros.
I know.
Here with us.
But you would think that the defendant was the victim listening
Aquí
to her.
estaré siempre para ti.
We're here always for you.
Te voy a esperar toda la vida.
I'm going to wait the rest of my life for you.
Sí.
Thank you. Bien.
Un momento.
Señores excelentísimos jueces de la Corte,
Honorable judges of the court.
estoy aquí consternado.
Apparently, he decided to speak. He wasn't supposed to.
I am shocked by everything that happened.
Dándole apoyo moral y espiritual a nuestra hija.
The defense attorney has lost control of his
Señores jueces, pido compasión,
of the
comprensión,
parents of the
empatía,
defendant.
misericordia para un ser humano que ha tenido una etapa de su vida cargada de mucho estrés
Apparently, the interpreter doesn't have a
y
script.
preocupaciones.
He must have had a script because
Gentlemen judges.
Las enfermedades mentales
Gentlemen judges, I ask for compassion, understanding, empathy, and mercy.
you can see the attorney over there. He's cringing. He's like, this got out of control.
Emotional illness.
This is crazy. This is nuts.
Las enfermedades mentales y emocionales no avisan.
Mental and emotional illness does not give warning.
No, it does.
Cada
It does.
persona es un
And it did with
mundo.
her. She had medicine she wasn't taking.
Each person is a world unto herself.
I don't think he's
Y el
helping.
mundo
Look at the
interior
attorney's reaction
de
to
mi
that.
hija
He's like, this is not helping at all.
convulsionó.
Was shaken
Sin darnos cuenta,
without our having realized it.
la depresión, la
Uh,
ansiedad,
this is for something else, man.
Depression.
la envolvieron hasta hacerle perder el juicio y la razón.
Depression and anxiety consumed her to the point of depriving her of good judgment and reason.
Aquí está mi hija Cristel,
And the attorney has no idea how long this guy intends to go. He's you can see him sitting up there like, what in the hell is happening?
para
right now?
seguir adelante.
Here's my daughter Crystal, who also has a motive to go forward with your help.
And this is
Con
why
la ayuda de ustedes
that defense attorney is not
y esa
prepared,
razón,
and he's lost control of his case.
Motive.
se llama Amaya.
And with and to have a client whose life is on the line depending on your preparation, this is
7
ridiculous.
years old,
Y espera ver a su madre
and she hopes to
y abrazarla
If you can see, he wants to jump in and
she
stop
hopes
him
to see her mother and hug her very soon.
muy pronto.
Very soon.
very soon. Apparently, he misunderstands that 20 years is a minimum.
Imploro perdón, suplico comprensión.
I beg for your help, forgiveness, and understanding.
Hija querida, recuerda siempre
I mean, it's such a serious case. It shouldn't be laughed at, but that that defense attorney has lost control.
a Yailin,
We'll never forget Jaylene,
mi amada nietecita,
my beloved granddaughter.
And his reactions are hilarious. Look at this.
que todos los días tenía que yo amanecer cogiéndola a mi nieta,
That, every
quien
day,
extraño mucho
He wasn't even supposed to come up, this guy.
profundamente.
very deeply.
Su imagen está grabada en mi recuerdo.
I carry her image always within my memory.
Yailin es nuestra luz.
Jaylene is the light of our life.
Amaya es nuestra esperanza.
Amaya is our hope.
Te amo, hija.
I love you, my daughter.
Hasta el final de mis días.
Until the end of my days.
Y aquí estaremos esperando por ti.
And we will be here waiting for you.
Que Dios te dé fuerza, valentía cada día de tu vida.
May God give you strength and courage
Gracias.
every day of your life.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Now, Your Honor, just in quick conclusion, when you're contemplating your decision, she was obviously struggling with something that she was unaware of. Doctors weren't aware of, her family was unaware of.
She was smoking something?
Again, not a justification for what she did. But when she finally returned home and called 911, that fear and also
Did he say she was smoking something?
was told to perform CPR, and she tried to bring her daughter back, or tried to do whatever she could. And I asked her too recently, hey, if that would have been successful, had the paramedics or yourself been able to revive Jaylene, and she was still here, do you think you belong here? you did? Absolutely, she said. She said, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. I can't put myself back into that state of mind I was in. She hates herself for it. She thinks of her daughter, and I actually going to let her speak now. Thank you.
Ms. Candelaria,
I mean, this attorney is a goofball, man. I mean, honestly, what the hell is he even saying? She was smoking something. We have no medical experts in. We have nobody to speak to her mental state. Nobody to. And then he puts up her parents. It's a disorganized mess. This guy is it? Wow. Oh, now the emotion comes, huh? It's good to see it.
Sorry. Hay mucho dolor que tengo con respecto a la pérdida de mi bebé Yailin.
There's so much pain that I have in regards to the loss of my baby, Aileen.
Estoy muy dolida por todo lo que pasó.
I'm extremely hurt about everything that happened.
No estoy tratando de justificar mis actos,
I am not trying to justify my actions,
pero nadie sabe cuánto yo estaba sufriendo
but nobody knew how much I was suffering
y por lo que estaba pasando.
and what I was going through.
I hope she addresses whatever she was smoking.
Todos los días
I want to hear more about that.
le pido perdón a Dios y a mi hija, Yailin.
Every day I ask forgiveness from God and from my daughter, Jaylene.
Soy una persona creyente de Dios
I'm a person who believes in God.
y reconozco hoy que todos y todas, muchas ocasiones, somos tentados por el enemigo.
And I recognize today that all of us are sometimes subject to the enemy.
Dios y mi hija me han perdonado.
God and my daughter have forgiven me.
Oh, they have? Your daughter forgave you for 10 days of suffering and eating her own poop?
A mi hija
Because
Amaya
you left her? I don't think your daughter has forgiven you, ma'am. I highly doubt that.
y a
Come
mis
on.
padres.
That's what you're going to tell the court.
No se imaginan cuánto yo era unida a mi hija Yailin y Amaya.
One can't imagine how close I was to my daughters, Jaylene and Amaya,
Y cuánto nos amábamos todas.
and how much we all loved one another.
Extraño mucho a mis hijas.
I miss my daughters very much.
Hoy nada puede devolverme a Maya, a Yailin, perdón.
Well, she did. Yes, she did.
Nothing can bring
But now, in court, of course,
Y
you
no
know,
pasa un día
doesn't know
que no
English.
deje de pensar en ella.
And not a day goes by when I do not think of her.
Le pido a Dios que algún día pueda volverla a ver
I pray to God that one day I will see her again
y poder retornar junto con Amaya, que es nuestra única esperanza el día de hoy.
and I pray also that one day I can be reunited with Amaya, who is our only hope right now.
Thank you, Susan. Your honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else, Mr. Smith?
You will not be. You should never be reunited with your daughter. Never. Not after what you did to
Candelaria, you
that
might as well stand up.
child. And her attorney's like, man, I just put forth the best defense ever. Here it comes.
And the first thing, Judge, has to do is look at the purposes and principles of sentence.
I don't know. That's an interesting question, Ian. I was wondering the same thing. I'm assuming maybe that daughter was with her parents.
The overriding purpose is to punish the offender and protect the public from future crime by this offender and others, using the minimum sanctions that the court determines accomplishes this purpose without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local government resources. I always have to consider the need for incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation, and restitution.
Justice is life without
The
parole
sentence
in this case,
commensurate
unfortunately. But I believe parole should always be an option, so I would say 25 to life is what I'd have to go with.
its impact on the victims, and consistent with sentences for similar crimes
But
by similar offenders.
whether she should ever actually get parole, I would be. We would need to
I am
have
not sentencing you
extensive,
today based on your race,
extensive mental
your
health
ethnicity,
evaluations.
your gender, or your religion. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, why do you have to say that then? I guess it's.
I sat here, listened, and I'm
Listen to your abysmal defense.
looking in the back of this courtroom, and I think of Dr. Mooney's statements to me, Sergeant Detective Teresa Gomez, and Detective Powell, and these three experienced, very talented, hardworking individuals all called this one of the most horrific cases they've ever seen. I look in the back of this courtroom and I see law enforcement, I see individuals who have worked on this case, who are here because it's also affected them and how horrific this crime is. It stunned people across this world because it defies one of the basic human responsibilities. The bond between a mother and a child is one of the most purest and most sacred bonds between human beings. It's a relationship built on love, trust, and unwavering protection. Yet, in a shocking and betrayal of this fundamental trust, you committed the ultimate act of betrayal, leaving your baby terrified, alone, unprotected, to suffer what I heard was the most gruesome death imaginable, with no food, no water, no protection, and lying in her own feces. Miss Candelaria, you know the responsibility of parenthood. You have a child already. You raise another child. And I've witnessed here before me your parents who showed you love and respect and education. And they came here to help you, to advocate for you, more than what you've done for your own child. The evidence that I've witnessed here before this court shows that this time you simply chose not to be here because you wanted to have fun.
It's exactly what it shows.
You decided you needed a vacation. And what followed was absolute depravity. You left your baby, Jalen, trapped in a pack and play without food, and water for 10 days. This wasn't simply an oversight. You could have saved Jalen's life many times.
She could have called
You could have
911.
found someone to watch her while you were gone. You could have taken her with you. While you were in Detroit or Puerto Rico, you could have called someone in Cleveland and told them that Jalen needed help. Dr. Mooney indicated that rigor mortis was found when they found her, which means she didn't die that long before you came home. Think about that. Despite all of her suffering, that little baby persevered, waiting for someone to save her. And you could have done that with a simple phone call.
A simple phone call. That's exactly right. Someone go check on her. Someone go check on her.
While your child was eating her own feces in an attempt to survive.
It's disgusting. Ugh.
Photos mean something.
I can't believe.
And I'm well aware of mental health, but didn't look like you were too concerned about your child. As if that wasn't bad enough, you extended your stay in Detroit without regard to Jalen, alone, in pain, clawing her face in distress from the exhibits I just looked at, trapped in a tiny prison that you left her in. When you got home, you knew enough to start lying. You concocted story after story, trying to hide what you did. You even put pants on her, but you couldn't hide the absolute horror and filth that she spent the last days of her life in. You still didn't get it. I hear this morning that you went out and managed to go out with someone that you were with, and he was too upset to eat, but you weren't. And then I hear that you're in jail and you're telling people, well, I can't wait to get home. I look at remorse. I hear, except for the acceptance of responsibility, no remorse. As a court, I have to remember Jalen, where you did not. Just as you didn't let Jalen out of her confinement until she died, so too, you should spend the rest of your life in a cell without freedom. The only difference will be that prison will at least feed you and give you liquids that you denied her. Based on all these factors and based on all the things I've looked at, and I'm marking this as State's Exhibit 1 for the court reporter. On count 1, aggravated murder, I'm going to sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Boom.
On count 5, I'm going to sentence you to 8 years to run concurrent to count 1.
Defense attorney looks like he is absolutely sick to his stomach. Look at him. He's like, oh, man, damn.
Crystal,
and she's looking at him like, what?
This
No.
is probably one of the most difficult, horrific cases to listen to hear.
You assured me I'd get out.
See.
Nope, never getting
And
out.
I can tell you that
Never getting out.
I appreciate the fact that the state of Ohio presented this matter in a professional way and the defense has acted in a professional way. You have a right to appeal my sentence. Do you have the money or means to hire a lawyer at this time? Yeah. All right. I'll appoint a lawyer to represent her on appeal. And on the endangering children, because of the Reagan-Tokes thing, it would be 8 to 12 years. That would be concurrent with the aggravated murder, which is life without parole. Is there anything else, Mr. Smith, on behalf of the defense?
Nothing further.
Anything on behalf of the
No,
prosecution?
Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thank you. Court's adjourned.
Right.
Well, there we have it. Life without parole. You know, if you followed this channel, if you've been here, you know, and you know, I've had discussions about my feelings on life without parole, and you know, I don't believe that should be a sentence that anybody should be given, because I think that there should always be an opportunity for parole. Doesn't mean you get it, but to take away any possibility kind of negates the ability for the prisoner to start trying to work on themselves and try to, you know, redeem themselves, and takes away from the reformative potential that should exist, in my opinion, when it comes to the correctional system that we have in our country. But obviously, you know, in certain cases, and I can certainly understand why the judge did in fact impose this. You know, I can understand why he wanted to do that, give her life without parole. I mean, she deserves it. But man, I'll tell you, I don't think she was expecting it, and I don't think her attorney necessarily was expecting it either. You could see that goofball was sitting there looking, you know, just looking stunned. But I mean, he prepared a terrible defense, in my opinion. I mean, the way this thing got so out of control was ridiculous. However, let's go to the document set. I want to show you something, because I realized why this guy was such a goofball. Because I'm staring at him, I'm thinking, he reminds me of someone. So let me show you. I think we know what was going on here. Hold on a second. Let me go in here. I've got to go to my recent. So there it is. Okay. All right. So as you're going to see here, I figured out who he looks like. He looks like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Impractical Joker show. My wife loves that show. She watches it all the times. And he looks exactly like Sal Volcano off the Impractical Jokers, because I kept seeing him there. He was in there doing his thing with his jacket, and it was like he's, you know, overly animated, but he was just, you know, lets the family come up there and take over, brings a guy up who sneaks up in there, and it says, he's just here standing, Judge. And that dude takes over, and he keeps trying to interfere. I mean, it was a very serious matter and very sad matter, but it was hilarious to see this fool. But if you look at him, I kind of tried to steal a pick, or the best pick I could here. But if you look at him, I mean, look at him. Does that not look? I mean, if you look at the faces of those guys, that's Sal Volcano of the Impractical Joker somehow snuck into that courtroom and was playing a joke on us. So, anyways, whew, that was a tough one. That was a really, really tough one. Give me a moment, and we're going to conclude here. So I'm back. Sorry about that. But I mean, that was a tough sentencing hearing to listen to. What that woman did, in my opinion, was pure evil. As I said from a perspective of my own personal belief system, I don't believe in life without parole, but if there was a situation that I think justifies it, since it's available, that would be one. What she did to that child was unspeakable. Now, there's another case in Ohio, and Ian, you were talking about this, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow. This is going to be one of the topics for tomorrow night's show. Again, today I was planning to actually come on a lot earlier tonight and try to get an early show and try to see if we could attract more people in here and have a bigger, broader discussion. But I'm trying to play catch up here with the Daniel Howard case. So we were running day 3, and as soon as day 3 got over, I jumped in here and we got started. But tomorrow we're gonna try to kick this thing off earlier tomorrow. Try to run a couple of days of I'm trying to knock out 3 days. I'm going to try to get started earlier tomorrow morning. But tomorrow night, one of the topics we're going to talk about is going to be Chad Doberman, because his statement just got suppressed today. Now, we're going to talk about what that means, talk about what that looks like, what's the case look like now, does that have an impact, does it look like this monster is getting out? Yeah, I'm assuming, Ian, you're talking about the Howard case. Yes, there could be a verdict. Absolutely. I think, again, based on my perspective of 3 days and having cheated on listening to the closing arguments, I think it could be a guilty verdict. But I think the defense's case basically is premised upon the idea that, number one, you have to presume that he's innocent, right? 2, the fundamental definition of reasonable doubt is there an innocent explanation to the set of facts that the state is presenting? And the answer to that is yes, because the medical examiner, when reviewing her, said it was inconclusive. So for him to be found not guilty doesn't mean he has to prove that, she unalived herself, right? He just has to prove it's possible. Just has to prove that it's possible that it wasn't intentional. What I think is the overwhelming evidence is the jury is allowed to infer based on the surrounding circumstances that were going on before. And that is, why would she want to unalive herself? He's threatening her. He's strangling her. He's abusing her. He's emptying the clip out of the gun. Magazine out of the gun. Again, I haven't gotten to, obviously I'm only 3 days in, so I haven't gotten to some of the other evidence, but I think it's a tough case. I think this reminds me a lot of the Drew Peterson case, where it's a cop that's out of control, a cop that's very controlling, a cop that thinks he can do whatever he wants, a cop that thinks he can stage a homicide. The question is, I think one of the big deals here is, again, we heard some of the medical expert today who was saying that there was a medical expert that testified on the stand that said that it appeared that she had died of strangulation. So she dies of strangulation prior to the gunshot. And again, I'm looking forward to hearing more medical testimony on that point. But depending on how strong that is, that makes it impossible that the gunshot wound was any factor. Yes, Drew Peterson is the guy who had multiple wives missing, but he ends up convicted of his second wife, who was found in a bathtub. His other wife has never been found. He's never been convicted of a crime in relationship to her, but they reopened it originally. They found that they had a medical examiner come in and looked at it and found that it was but he was kind of involved in it. His police department was involved in the investigation, but they found that it was an accident. They exhumed her body, redid the autopsy when his last wife went missing, and they find that they come back with a different finding. And of course, he had a trial, and a big trial, and some of R. Kelly's attorneys were involved in that trial, and he ends up getting convicted. he was the cop. He was pretty arrogant. He didn't think he was going to get convicted, but he does. Now he's serving life. And then on top of that, of course, he just doubles down on stupid, because then he tries to put a hit out on the prosecutor that got him. So they convict him of that. So he's like doubled up on life sentences there. Yeah, yep, that's exactly right. Yep. But this is one, probably not one. This lady's case was probably not one we want to watch right before we go to sleep. And I'm getting ready to go to sleep. It's one that'll be on your mind. It'll haunt your dreams. But what a horrific case. But I appreciate everybody coming in and watching it with me. I appreciate Outdoorsy Life. You found the channel. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. And anybody who's watching this on the rewatch, anybody who's watching this later, I appreciate you watching. Leave me a comment if you weren't able to be active in the chat. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Remember to hit the like button on your way out. Remember to share this video as well, so that others can see and others can become aware of Justice Watch Live. The goal here is to get interaction like we're doing, talk about things, go all over the place. I like to run it about 2 to 3 hours and keep it at that tops. Also, guys, don't forget, thank you, Outdoorsy Life. I appreciate it. As you're watching here, remember there is, check out the membership page. There's only one tier of membership, but it gives you exclusive access. And while we're watching trials during the day, you get access to the members only behind the scenes feed or behind the stream feed. You'll get access to videos that'll drop early for you. Right now, obviously, there's no members, so we're not dropping anything early. But the moment I get one member, you're going to be getting videos 6 to 12 hours earlier than everybody else. So, and there's other benefits. There's emojis. There's other things you could show. But we're just keeping it at one tier. That's it. Get you everything. You're in the door. You also will have polls, and we're going to do, once we start building the membership, we're going to do members only lives where we'll sit down and talk about cases, talk about future cases, so that we can, I can get some input from you guys on what you want to do with the channel, cases you want to follow, and places you want to go. So anyways, if you're watching here on the rewatch, just wanted to do a little plug there for you. We'll be back at it watching the Howard case tomorrow, and the jury will be deliberating the case. So hopefully, if there is a verdict tomorrow on Justice Watch Live, we will watch that verdict, even though we'll still be watching the case probably for the next day or two. I'm looking for the next case that we're going to follow after we get done with the Howard case and figure out what that next one is. I'm not sure what's coming up. I'm hoping something pops. Normally what happens is Mondays and Tuesdays, we might get opening statements dropping on us on another case from Law and Crime, because today when cases start on a Monday or a Tuesday, they'll be doing pretrial on Monday, start jury selection. Jury selection will end Monday night, sometimes end Tuesday morning. We'll get some opening statements on Tuesday afternoon or first thing Wednesday morning. So keep our eyes out for the next big case that we're going to be following, in addition to the Daniel Howard case, because that one is an interesting case as well, and I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it. Anyways, with that said, guys, I'm going to head off to bed, get some rest. I appreciate you guys coming along with me, and until tomorrow morning when we're back watching the Howard case, let justice prevail, and I will talk to you soon. So we're going to go ahead and kick off the theme music, and I'll see you guys soon.